Welcome everyone to the next ShowFlow Customer Spotlight webinar. We are very excited today to be bringing in Utah Valley Athletics. It's been really cool to get to know this team over the last year or so. They've been using ShowFlow for 1 year, rounding into their second year this year. So this is a new user of ShowFlow. They're going to walk through how they do game scripting. We're going to learn a little bit more about their department and how they just do marketing within the school. So we don't have just one person or even two people today. We have 3 studs that are running the show over there in the Valley. But before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. First, we want this to be interactive. So if you have questions, please use the Q&A section in the right to submit your questions. We'll be taking those on the fly and trying to answer in real time if it's pertinent to the topic as we're sharing the screen and walking through the software. So please use that. We'll pause as we go, but we'll also have some time reserved at the end for the Q&A. And then, introduce yourself in the chat as well, where you're coming in from, and we'll go from there. First, we're going to launch a quick poll. We'll open the question up. Do you write game scripts? We want to get an idea from the audience. Are you in this industry? Are you writing game scripts? Maybe you used to. And then we always have some of our agency and corporate partners joining these as well. So maybe you don't even know what a game script is. If not, you're in for a treat here. So let's jump in. I'm going to introduce or really let each of these awesome people that we're spotlighting today introduce themselves. But Sharif, why don't you bring on Cam, Jeff, and Mikaela, and we'll start with you, Cam. Why don't you share what your current role is, how you landed in that role, and maybe a little bit about your favorite part of the industry or the job that you have.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for having us. We're really excited to be able to share what we were able to do with ShowFlow and highlight UVU. Obviously, we work in marketing, so anytime we can put our name out there, it's highly beneficial. For me, I started at UVU. My name is Cameron Deering. I'm the Assistant Athletics Director at Utah Valley. I oversee the marketing department, which includes our creative suite, which is design, video, and photo, and digital marketing, as well as our event marketing staff, our community outreach, and our student engagement programs, and our mascot program. While I oversee the entire department, I rely heavily on Jeff and Mikaela. They'll go into a little bit depth on what they do. But I started here at UVU in student leadership in various roles and quickly made my way into athletics, as any wise student would. At the time when I started, there were 5 employees in marketing, a full-time, part-time, and 3 students, and one of those being me. Now our student is 4 full-time, 3 part-time, and about 30 student employees. So we've definitely seen a lot of growth over the last near decade. And it's been tremendous to watch UVU grow as well as the department grow and the students grow as well. I was named the director of marketing in 2015 and I've had various roles since, including a 1-year stint as the assistant AD of Wolverine Club, which oversaw our annual fund. Simultaneous or at the same time as that, I was also overseeing marketing. After that 1-year time of development, I was asked to reorganize our marketing department. And that's when we were very lucky to hire both Mikaela and Jeff. And we've not missed a beat since, and it's been a lot of fun. So I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Hi, everyone. How's it going? I'm Jeff Elgren. I'm marketing manager here at UVU. To go into a little bit about what I do before I hop into kind of my background. As you can see, I'm pointing the way here. I started as well, like Cam said, in student leadership at Utah Valley University, overseeing marketing and public relations for our student leadership and involvement program on campus. As I was doing that, I was kind of getting the feel for my love of athletics, because that was the part that I most heavily participated in. I was supposed to do other aspects of my job, but that was the part that was the most fun and I enjoyed the most. While I was a student here, and when I finished my time up in student leadership, I kind of realized college wasn't for me. I was about to get my bachelor's, but I decided to hop into full-time to getting as much experience as I can. So I started working up in Draper, Utah, running marketing for an equipment finance company, which I really enjoyed. When this position opened up due to my time in student leadership at UVU, I had to hop on it, and I had the opportunity to come back, and I've been working here ever since. This is my third year, and I love every second of it. To go over my specific responsibilities, I oversee the DEN, which is our student leadership organization and involvement here in athletics, our student section, and then also our mascot program. So I like to say to Cam and Mikaela, I have the most fun teams. It's a good way for me to channel my creativity, and they're always a good time. They're really involved in the community, and working with students is a blast. So that's a little bit about me, and I'll pass it on over to Mikaela.
Hi, everyone. I'm the Assistant Director of Marketing here at Utah Valley University. I've been here, I'm going on my third year now. I'm over wrestling, baseball, softball. I also oversee our digital marketing team and our marketing and fan experience team. And then how I got my career here is I played softball down at Utah Tech for 4 years. Loved my time there. I love being on a team, love working hard with others. But then I transferred here for 1 year to play my senior year here on the softball team because my dad got the head coach job. And then I slithered my way into the administration side of things. And now I work closely with Cam and Jeff. And I'll turn the time back over to Brian.
Awesome. Thank you, Mikaela. I did not know about the dad connection. That's a great one. Well, we want to hear a little bit more about what makes UVU and this department special. I know that they just won a Unity Award at NACTA in Vegas here a couple weeks ago, which is pretty exciting. But Cam, if you don't mind, as the leader of the department, share a little bit about what makes your team awesome. This could be culture, what's unique about UVU. What are you most proud of within your team and the way you're running things?
Yeah, thank you. For us, culture is really important and values. UVU as a whole is built on an engaged learning model, meaning we let our students grow. We let our students make their choices, and we just kind of guide them along. And we've really tried to emulate that in athletics as well. Again, when we started, there were 5 of us. After working as a student employee for about 9 months, I was named the director of marketing full time. And that was really because of the support and help that I had from my predecessor, one of my mentors, Preston Darger, who now works at Delta. But he really helped me and guided me. And because I really was dedicated and loved what I did, I was able to find successes. And I really have tried to do that. I have not been perfect. If there's any former employees on this stream, definitely I've not been perfect, but I think we've come a long way. So that's what we really try to do. We try to create a space where our students can create their own future, and we provide them with the resources that can enable that success. A lot of our students have gone on and graduated and had families and had successes working in various industries. But some of the ones that have worked the hardest and truly loved what they did, they've ended up with companies such as Nike, Bleacher Report, Turner Media, Minnesota Timberwolves, Golden State Warriors, Utah Jazz, Real Salt Lake, Utah Grizz, Utah Royals, a lot of Utah local sports teams, but really they've really worked really hard, and UVU was able to catapult them into a space of tremendous success. As for this marketing team, we've been together for about 2 years. After I was asked to work in development and marketing at the same time, and then moved back to marketing. Part of that was hiring both Jeff Elgren and Mikaela Thompson. Since then, we've had countless successes, from attendance, breaking attendance records and season and season ticket records, to winning national or receiving national recognition. You spoke a little bit about the Unity Award. It's simply recognizing us for highlighting UVU as a whole, and really that's not possible without the support of campus, the support of the various entities within campus, the multicultural student services, people in culture, president and her cabinet, our athletics leadership. And that's not only the Unity Award, but anything that we're recognized or not recognized for is because of the leadership that we have at UVU, and the freedom that we receive to be successful. Top down, it's engaged learning. I'm still learning every day. I learn from Jeff and Mikaela, and I hope that they learn from me as well. Working at UVU, one of the most important things is that it's a family culture, whether that's building a culture of family of who we work with, or having the support from our families at home.
That's awesome. Love it. It sounds like there's a lot of passion there. It's more than just a job, and it's certainly a place that you can invest into and then get a return on that. Just hearing all the different teams and sports that former people that you've worked with have gone off to work at is pretty cool. We see that a lot in this industry. I'd say people in college moving into the pros, people in pros moving back to college. I feel like everybody wants to get into NFL at some point because there's only 10 home games a year. But maybe not. Maybe you like the madness of having 70 home games if you're in baseball, or in college is just always happening. So
yeah, never ending. And that's where my wife and kids are at home watching right now, which is it's just fun being able to bring my daughters to games, having them meet the mascot, meet the team. It's really awesome.
That's cool. Well, let's pivot into so you all have been a ShowFlow customer for a year. Walk us through what that decision was like to move out of Excel and into ShowFlow, and how you went about setting things up when you first got in and accessed the software.
Yeah, I loved Excel. Anyone that's watching this knows that I'm being very truthful. Actually, anyone that's ever worked in Excel for non-numbers knows that I'm lying. Excel it's great for what it did, and it got us a long way. I remember as a student employee, right before I became full-time, I went to UNLV. I hit up the marketing guy and asked if I could come shadow while I was visiting out there. And he gave me his Excel. And I remember thinking, man, I just have the greatest script there is. I've taken stuff from the Jazz. I've taken stuff from UNLV. I've taken stuff from Cal. And I've built the ultimate Excel script. And that's what we used for until 2022, I think is when we started, 2021. Jeff and Mikaela were hired, and they came into this world without sports marketing. And marketing and sports marketing are very different. Like you were saying, there's working the 15 games a year, or there's working 140 events a year. And when it's 140 events at mid-major level, every moment of your time is highly valuable. So after that first year, we went to NACDA to the trade show area, the exhibitor hall, and I remember my first NACMA, and my boss was like, "Hey, talk to everyone," and then he went off and did his own thing. And so Jeff and Mikaela, I was like, "Make sure you guys talk to everyone. I'm gonna go get some food." And they came back, and Jeff was like, "Dude, you got to see this program. It'll make it so we don't have to manually change numbers. It'll make it so we'll save hours and hours and hours of our time." I was like, "Yeah, I know about it. I've known about it for a long time. We don't have the money to do it." And so for me, that it was laid to rest. We weren't doing it, but Jeff, as he frequently does, just keeps going and keeps going. And he had conversations with you and your team. Specifically, Sharif was a huge part of that. And it got to the point where Jeff was like, hey, I got numbers. Like, I really think that we can just move some money around. This will be so beneficial. And I was like, you know what? It's your money. You can do it, but it's your thing. If you want to do it, you can do it. So finally, Jeff purchased it. We got it, but we were at that point, we were in the thick of it. We were in men's basketball, where again, we didn't have a moment. And so we didn't really even use it the first little bit. Until finally we did. We spent some time. I think we were in the thick of it. We didn't use it for volleyball, men's or women's soccer, and we were coming up on basketball season. And Jeff came over to my house one night, and we were up until Jeff will correct me later if I'm wrong, but it was 2-3 a.m. Building the script the day before a basketball game, which I do not recommend to anyone. But we spent a lot of time trying to make it as perfect as possible, and we thought it was perfect, and it's evolved probably completely different since then. And so from that moment, there was no looking back. We actually graduated to Google Sheets for a while before ShowFlow, which if anyone that's using Excel, you need a next step, use the sheets. But this was it was night and day difference. There's no comparison on what we were able to do in ShowFlow to what we were doing on Sheets or in Excel. From there, we built out men's basketball, and then I just copied and pasted it for women's basketball. I've been in this industry for nearly a decade, and for some reason, when I built out the first women's basketball script, I forgot that men's and women's basketball do not run the same. And so we ran the first women's basketball game on a men's basketball script with the timeouts different and everything. And so we quickly switched the women's basketball script. And from there, it's just been it's history.
That's great. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. It's been great to get to know a little bit more about your team and your history as well with it. So let's. I'm actually going to launch another poll, and while I do that, just share some of the results. It looks like almost everyone on the call here or on the webinar is writing game scripts. There's a few that have, but not currently. They've done it in the past. So this next question is pertinent to most people here then. When creating a new game script, are you duplicating a previous event? Or are you duplicating a previous game? Or maybe are you making a copy from a template? And so it sounds like even within this team here, they're doing it two different ways. They're duplicating from a previous game in most cases. But for one sport in particular, it's just using the template each time as the starting point. So share your responses there. And I'll go ahead and display those so you can see it looks about 50% of the people are duplicating from a previous game. And so that's typically what we see. That's what we recommend. We do have a few that are duplicating an entire previous event. And so once we jump in here and start sharing the screen of the software, this is a kind of a core or key workflow difference where most teams that we work with create one event for an entire season, and then they're just creating a different rundown for each game script. But we do have some customers that prefer to create a new event for each game that they're doing, and they're just duplicating that. Both are pretty streamlined, so there's very nuances in the difference between the two workflows, but it looks good. So we'll close that question and pull it off. And let's move over to Jeff. So Jeff, you are taking the lead on men's basketball, right? Let's do a screen share. Welcome, man. Why don't you walk us through what the day in the life looks like, and you can start sharing your screen and walk through maybe 3 different segments. There's the process of duplicating, there's the process of starting to build out and make those changes, and then you're moving into pre-game meetings, collaborating with other people, and then it's game time, tip off. How are you using ShowFlow there? So I'll just let you run and walk us through it.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, I'm glad that I was on mute and my camera was not showing when Cam was sharing the experience about creating that script the day before the basketball. That was a wild time. And no, I won't correct him because it was about 2 or 3 a.m. And afterwards, he's like, we're never doing this again. And so ever since then, we've been very on top of our script creation and our processes. Obviously, we're not perfect, like Cam said, but we're learning every day. So Brian, to specifically answer your question, I have on here our different events from this last year. We have baseball, softball, men's basketball, because regarding templating versus copying a previous game, it's honestly different per sport. So for baseball and softball, where a lot of the process stays consistent, and Mikaela is so perfect at creating everything down to the very second. She's very detail oriented. She has them done essentially perfect from the beginning of the season. And then baseball is consistent, and so she's able to copy a template per game for baseball and softball. While in basketball, which I'll hop into here more specifically into a second, we start off with a template every year, which is what Cam and I worked on before from last season. But then we run off the previous game script moving forward after the first game. We tried updating the template throughout the year so we could copy the template, but there was always little bits of information that were missing. So we started copying the previous game script from game to game so that we always have the most up-to-date information. We didn't want anything slipping through the cracks, but there was always something if we tried to update the template. So copying the previous game, making the adjustments, we knew we'd have our notes and everything that we were updating. So hopping straight into men's basketball, we have this pulled open here. We have our template, which I've created here for our next year. Obviously, we're going to have some things will change, but this is what we go off of. So let's say we're creating our first game of the year. We'll always click duplicate rundown. Once we duplicate our rundown, it takes a second, but it will eventually duplicate. We have the copy here. We'll always go into edit our rundown settings, and we'll always rename it. So our format that we're doing for scripts is we'll go game 1, men's basketball versus opponent. And then we always adjust our start time. So if the game's at 2 o'clock, we go 2:02. That's just our standard here at UVU, as we try to start 2 minutes after. Tip is always 2 minutes after the hour. The date of the game, and then we'll have all of these checked, excluding item descriptions, making sure our time is on and all of that. Then we'll save. Once that updates on our end, I'm not sure if it will immediately, but we'll then go into that game. So actually jumping back before I hop into the script itself, going over sharing. So if I click into our crew here, these are our people that we have. But specifically who we share with is we share a live rundown with our PA, our public address, who will use one of our iPads that we have, and he will follow along script through show caller through our iPad. Then we have our production team. They also follow along live in the production booth, and they have multiple computers up there, which they're live following along as well. We have our DJ and our main DJ who'll come to our games. He has his own computer. We add him to the crew so that he can live follow along through show caller. So those are our 3 people that follow along live: is our DJ, our production team, and then our PA. We do use the printing aspect. So we create paper scripts for a majority of those that are rotating from game to game. So our marketing staff will print out a physical copy for all of them, our event marketing staff, our corporate partnership team, and then other community relation aspects of each game. So even with our spirit squad, they get paper copies, our mascot performer and handler, and then sometimes performers that are coming to our games, we'll give them paper copies. So that was how we did it last year. We're hoping to provide more live copies to a lot of the team as to cut down on paper and the costs of that. So providing a television which sits where our marketing staff are, that they can look off the television with the script so they know what's coming up next and exactly when, so on and so forth. So these are all things we're working through.
That's great to hear. That's one of the questions, and oftentimes the suggestion that we make is like, how many people have a real-time device that they're looking at, and have you put ShowFlow in any monitors, like in your control room or at the desk on a court side? And so we would typically say, don't buy all this equipment in year one, because you'll figure out where you want it and if it's even important or valuable. And so it's good to hear that that's maybe an improvement you're looking to make in year two.
Yeah, of course. And it also puts more pressure on us. So Cam, Mikaela, and myself as the producers for each game, really making sure we're following along and clicking that space bar when we need to. Because if we're not, then it's really throwing off the groove of the other team knowing what's actually coming up. So sometimes it's easier to just give them a paper script and be like, hey, you got to follow along, rather than it being on us. Jokes, of course,
sure.
But it's always a good time. So we're always trying to improve. Thanks, Brian. Hopping into the actual script now. So we have it renamed. We'll click into it here. Like Cam said, we had a very basic script at the beginning, and it has developed over time. We did originally create our template for each game based on the college basketball template provided by ShowFlow. So we used that as like a starting point, and then we mixed that with our previous scripts from Excel that Cam has perfected over the years. So we merged the two, and this is kind of what we come up with. So if anyone has any questions, Brian, feel free to pop in as they come into the chat about specific aspects of our script. And Cam and Mikaela, feel free to butt in at all, because we all collaborate on this. So the first thing we do when we create our script is we'll always come down to where tip is. And when we adjust how we have it set up, if we adjust the tip, let's say it's 1 o'clock, it'll adjust everything going backwards and moving forwards. All the timing is done just like that. So that the game is 2 o'clock, so I can change the tip to 2 o'clock, and we're basically set for timing. Now all we have to do is plug and play our other aspects. So hopping back, our marketing staff arrives at 11:05, and we set up. We try to make it as detailed as possible for our staff that need that information. So in our production notes column, we have our general, what needs to be set up, tailgate, what needs to be set up, so on and so forth. Regarding general columns, we have our item, our start time, our clock time, the duration of each element, our private notes. So these are just for me personally. Production notes, which I was just going over for our staff to need to know. The PA script, of course, if the PA needs to read something, what our audio needs to be doing, what our lights need to be doing, and what our video boards need to be doing. So our two final columns are mainly for our production staff. So while printing scripts, sharing scripts for certain teams, we will often hide the final 2 or even final 3 columns, as that information doesn't pertain to certain teams, or hide certain information before those columns so that just the production team sees what they need to see. So going down through element number 3, this is our community relations. So we try to keep each group associated with a certain color, so that if it's our community relations, a community relations row or item, then the team can see it, go through the script and be like, I know I'm yellow. What's coming up that's yellow? It's just another thing that can help them stay on track. So they need to pick up food at this time, and then we always put in what the food is, and if it's delivered or if they need to pick up and so forth. You'll notice that. I'm not going to have time to go through every aspect, but I'm just kind of getting off information. So as I do scroll through here, you can see, and I'll point at anything that I do. At 12:50, we do our production check, and you'll notice in the private notes column, as I go through, you'll see I put check here. If I keep going down, I put check here. And that's just as I'm doing the production check, I can go through the script on my end and say, okay, I need to make sure that I'm checking this video, making sure the sound levels are good, so on and so forth. Oh, I need to check these. I need to check all of these. So that's what goes along with the production check.
One thing that I really like about the private notes is that a lot of time in game, there'll be issues that arise. And before ShowFlow, I would just like put them in my notes app, and then they didn't exist after that. I would never go back to it. With the private notes, so everyone has their own private note, you can only see your own private note. So the only reason why we can see Jeff is because he's screen sharing. If I had this script pulled up, it would be blank for me until I put something in there. And so throughout the game, I would say production forgot to do the lights at this time, or marketing staff forgot to do this, or I need to be better at calling at this time. So then as I'm building the next script, because we're in basketball, we're building from the previous script from the previous game. Those notes are in there on the next game. So as I'm building, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. So I'm going to adjust timing or add a note in the production notes to either go directly to production, or a note for myself to remind production or marketing or myself earlier to ensure that we're not having issues. That's been one of the biggest factors in us increasing our fan experience and increasing our production value, is that we're able to every single game go over what we did poorly or what we did well as well, and apply that into the next game script.
Exactly. No, I love that, Cam. It's been extremely helpful as we are copying previous games. You can't do that as the template unless you're putting those private notes in the template and then copying the template. Like I said, just another thing that helps us adjust the script from game to game. So we put in other things here, starting at 1 p.m. Our staff needs to pick up their clear comms, and then we'll make all of our necessary assignments here. Who has the wireless headsets? What's their role that game? Who's their name? Who's on wired headsets? Are they even there that game? Is our band there? Our Green Man Group, house music, video editors, so on and so forth. It's just to keep us all in check. Our auxiliary crew arrives at a different time. So we put, are they there? Yes or no. That just helps with the overall staffing. Everything marked in orange is what our team is doing. So are they in the locker rooms? Are they coming on? Are they leaving? So that just helps us plan or add or subtract elements as we create scripts as well. Jump around is an element we do. These are all production. We play our fight song, 30 minutes left on the game clock. Our tailgate opens up 25 minutes on the clock. So our students can come. We want to make sure our spirit squad and student fan experience tailgate is there. We need to make sure Willie, who's our mascot, Willie the Wolverine, he's a champ, he's an all-star, that he's at the tailgate as well. And then if he needs to go anywhere else, that he needs to make sure he's there at a different time. Like I said, community relations, we have our production. We played the WAC Vegas PSA. And you'll notice we're making sure we're matching all of the production elements in the video boards. So over here, we have our quad 1 and quad 3 video boards. It's playing the stats. Quad 2 and quad 4 is playing the scoreboard. Our center hung is playing the 2024 WAC Vegas PSA. It's all in line. So production can mostly just match what they need in their columns to what we have planned. And then our center score, make sure it's displaying the score. The Blaze, those are our ribbons. It's playing Utah Valley basketball. And then as we go through, PAs are all marked in orange. So these are our sponsored PAs. And then oftentimes we'll either just completely omit a PA, or we'll add it, or we'll just mark skip. So UCCU Center events, we play, they're our host. So the UCCU Center is where we play basketball here on UVU campus. So we have designated slots for them at each game. So rather than deleting it, it's a sponsored spot, so we keep it. Then we add information they have for us. So if they have an upcoming event they want us to sponsor, we'll just type it in. But since it's something that is supposed to be from game to game, we just put skip. Community relations. This is what our community relations team needs to be doing. We need to make sure that the game ball recipient is down to quad 2 at this time. Once again, and we just make sure that every minute of every second is accounted for through the game. So pre-game, we have a lot of these PAs. As we go through it, now we have marked our pre-game production. So that's around with 15 minutes left on the clock. So team goes to lockers. We have a music buffer, and that we have those in between downtime slots so that we know there's nothing going on. Or if we want to add something for future games, we know we have buffer time there. We can subtract the time in the music buffer to add certain elements. So our WAC sportsmanship announcement video, we're proud members of the Western Athletic Conference. We make sure we play that video displaying that before the game. Production, this is another video, once again, matching all the way across. We make sure that the PA reads before and after. So we just mark in the PA script, in the asterisk before video, we'll read this. And then after the video plays, we'll read this. Just little tiny things like that go a long way. And you'll actually notice, sorry, hopping back, something that we try to make as easy as possible for PAs, since sometimes we'll have turnover on that. We'll get a fresh guy, someone that's never even PA'd before, someone that is well seasoned. We try to write it out so they can just read it. So you'll notice within our links, we don't write UVU like the actual URL. We type it out as they would say it. So uvu.edu/thenorda. It simplifies things. It makes it way easier on the PA. So we're taking the extra time on our end so that we're not scrambling. This is something Brian and I were talking about beforehand, is we try to eliminate as many variables as possible for something to go wrong. If we have it in our power as producers in creating our scripts to eliminate potential issues, we will, even if that includes just rewriting a URL. And once again, we're hopping through here. We have our production, what our basketball team is doing, community relations. We're just kind of going through our production notes regarding the game ball presentation. All right, who is it? Do we have the PA written in here? We want to make sure that our ribbon boards are displaying their ads while we have them on the court. It's just the little things that go a long way. We want to make sure it's all on the same page. We'll just keep going down through here so you can see it, but I'm not going to cover any of these. We'll announce our officials 1:30 on the clock, and then we go into our opening ceremonies after our 1 minute countdown video. Okay, so now is where it gets spicy as a producer side. So we're about to start. We want to make sure we have our starters. Right now, if we don't have our starters, we're sweating bullets. So we got to make sure we have those at this point. Within our show flow subscription, we've made the blessed decision to get global elements. For those of you that don't know how global elements work, they are amazing. If you click on this little globe up here on the top right, and we've built this out per venue. So on the left here, we have our script, and then we have our global elements tied to each venue. So we have our UCCU ballpark. So Mikaela uses the global elements here for baseball and softball. Our global elements for Clyde Field and Wolverine softball field. So UCCU ballpark is for baseball. And then our global elements at Clyde Field and Wolverine softball field for men's soccer, women's soccer, and softball. But we'll keep it to UCCU Center and Lockhart Arena. So these are our global elements for volleyball and men's basketball and women's basketball.
The reason why we broke it up per arena rather than per sport is simply, and this was like, we had a lot of debate. We built out global elements for all of our sports at first. And then we decided that it should be purely off of arena because the script doesn't change. The columns don't change. So that's why we have UCCU Center and Lockhart, which are two completely different arenas for us. But all of the elements within a script stay the same. So that's like the key to the global elements, is making sure that the columns don't mix up. Because we've run into that. We created a script from scratch and messed up the columns and spent 2-3 hours on customer service trying to figure out what the issue was, why global elements was so messed up. So that's the reason why we do that.
Awesome. Thank you, Cam. And so going down on the script here, let me go back up. So I haven't quite got to the part where we implement the global elements, because we'll go welcome. Actually, yes, we are. So our national anthems, that's a perfect example. I'll open up global elements. You'll notice it's marked here in purple. That means it's a global element. And so we've pre-tagged a lot of these global elements. As I scroll down, the orange are national anthem global elements. So if we have a live national anthem performer but no color guard, we'll drag and drop the live one. If we have national anthem just recording with no color guard, we'll drag and drop it. If we have national anthem with color guard and live, then we'll drag and drop it. So like I said, I'll just drop this in here so you can kind of see what that looks like on our end. Then it has all of the specific columns already associated with it. So we have the specific production notes with that element, the specific PA associated with that element, because it does change what the audio will be doing. We're not going to be playing music because it's a acapella performance. Our lights, what the lights are going to be doing. If there's a live performer, we want the house lights on core only, versus if it's just music, obviously we don't need the lights pointing at the center of the stage or it looks silly. So all of our global elements are tailored specifically to what's going on, and it saves so much time. Going back to what Cam was saying with Excel or Google Sheets, we had to go in and physically add, retype, edit from game to game. But now we can just drag and drop, and it's been a lifesaver for us. So I'm going to go ahead and actually delete that global element. So for the sake of this template, we'll just keep it to National Anthem Live. As we go down to visitor intros, we have our lights out video. It's takes approximately 5 seconds, and we go into our intro video, which is a little over a minute. And then we have for our other production notes, like make sure we shoot the CO2 at exactly 53 seconds during this video. Like we want to make sure it hits on that downbeat, and we can change that from game to game. But as we get into our home intros, like I said, global elements comes in clutch. So we have our men's basketball home intros. We're able to just, all right, we have our starters. We have number 20 playing. All right, we're going to drag and drop that and then delete the ones previous, which already has all their information, their name, their position, where they're from, and so on and so forth.
Hey, Jeff, we've got a question from Taylor Goldman that just came in regarding building out global elements. Can you show how to create a new global element? Let's just say you had an element in here that you needed to create from scratch for the first time, and then you wanted to actually save that as a global element. So can you walk through that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So let's just say, so we have intro video. So so this isn't a global element already. So we would just build it out like a normal row. So we would include all the column bits, and you can create a new row by clicking this here. You can click add item row below. And as you do that, it'll automatically populate a row before. So you'd fill out all this information to make it a normal row. I'm just going to delete that though. And then it's as easy as clicking the little gear, and then you click save as new global element. And the second you click that, it automatically creates it as a global element. And then actually, I'll do that real quick. Let me click our back arrow. I'll show you where it's saved once you actually create it. You go back to our main page and click global elements, and then it'll show up under tagged, I think, or it's depending on, it was actually under the arena we already did. So we'd go into the UCCU Center Lockhart Arena, and then these are all of our saved global elements. And then once you're go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to answer the first part of the question, this is where you would establish all of your columns for that game. And the trick is, and why it can be confusing to some, is the column structure that you have in here needs to be mirroring the way you have your actual game script. And then if you don't know about show flow, every user can hide and reorder columns. That can be done after the fact, but for the initial setup, it needs to be matching the default. And then, when you save a new global element, it asks you essentially which library do you want to save it in. So in this case, it would be the UCCU Center, which, by the way, I love that you all have a different library per venue. That makes a lot of sense. And then in addition to which library, you would also be able to apply which tags you want to give that particular item. And the tags are helpful for, maybe it's an as happens element, or it's something that always happens pre-game. It's just a quick way to be able to filter down to a subset of your elements, so that when you're in the game and you want to quickly add something, or even if you're just building out, you can quickly filter by those tags. So, and you can apply multiple tags to a given element as well.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. So yeah, I failed to mention that you do have to build it out beforehand, because Cam and I ran into an issue where we forgot to do that while first creating our original scripts, hence the 3 a.m. Because we were trying to drag and drop in global elements, and it just went.
Everything was probably mapped to the wrong column. So
right, and it messed up a lot of things, so we had to go back and make sure everything matched. But just to go over, since we're on the topic of global elements, since that is a big part and it'll save us time going through the rest of the script, this is the other tags that we have. So we have our, like I said, men's and women's basketball starting lineups. We have our subsets of the national anthem. We have our on-court performances. So is the dance team performing in a timeout versus a halftime? Those are going to be different times standard. Our on-court performance for our cheer team, the Green Man group, our band, our DJ. Another performance we do is the Wolverine clap, our mascot motorcycle production. And you can create any and all of these performances that are often reoccurring, build out the global element so that when you're going through scripts in the future, you can just drag and drop those bad boys and you're all set and good to go. And then moving on to on-court promotions, this is our paid contests. So this is extremely helpful regarding corporate partnership fulfillment. If we say, hey, we have a contest tonight with what's an example? We'll say Crumble Cookies or something. They're not one of our sponsors, but I'll just say that. We can say, all right, what contests do we have that they would want to possibly, or actually I'm going to backtrack. Let's say our contest is with In-N-Out Burger. They are one of our people. We can say, oh, I actually know we have a contest called Build a Burger Challenge, which might work that really well. Oh, it's right here. And then it has all the information. What are the supplies that our team needs to have beforehand? How many contestants does it need? Oh, it needs 2. And then our PAs we have written out, everything marked in red is things that we need to change from the template. So like it's going to read, fans, it's time for Build a Burger Challenge presented by In-N-Out Burger or whatever it is. And then making sure that our ads in venue match the sponsor as well. And so we're able to just drag that in, make a couple of adjustments, and then boom, a whole contest is planned based on a template that the theme lies with that sponsor. So we try to do that with a lot of our contests, is making sure that they're pretty flexible or pretty general. Like there's a tic-tac-toe one on here, a skills challenge, so on and so forth, if the contest needs to be more generic. But we usually
doing the global elements is really important for ease of script, but doing corporate partnership fulfillment, specifically like contests or PAs, doing them through global elements, and for us being able to create a template saved us a lot of time and headache working with our corporate partnerships team, because we just say, this is what the script is going to be, this is what we need from you, and this is how many times we're going to say their name in a script. Instead of before, what we were doing, it was, we have In-N-Out contest, it's a shooting challenge, so we're going to have a game presented by In-N-Out, and then we wouldn't say In-N-Out again, because in the script we're hurrying typing it in, and there was no format. Or one game we would have In-N-Out read 5 times in a script, so there wasn't equity across the board. Now we have, when our core partnership sells PAs or on core contests, they're able to say, this is the script, this is what we need from you, we need your tagline and a call to action if you want it, otherwise we just build it out. But anytime we have a game where we have one of your sponsored elements, this is what it's going to look like, and it's helped them and it's helped us on both reporting and fulfillment sides.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you, Cam. That's a very important aspect. So then just now I can kind of breeze through the rest of our show. We have like our specific labels. All right, we're in our first half, and then we have our we may not make sure our team is finding contestants during this time if they haven't already. We have another part marked pregame where they're supposed to find contestants as well, because they already have all the information. We have our 60-minute media timeout. We'll always start with the PA, clear the court, and we have about 1 minute and 15 left. So that's what we have in our global elements. Contests during timeouts are usually 1 minute and 15 seconds, because it matches within that time slot within our media timeout. And per school, wherever you're at, your media timeouts are different, so you can build that out accordingly. 12-minute media timeout, similar format. 8-minute media timeout, similar format. 4-minute media timeout, similar format, just different PAs according to those spots that are sold for us. And then halftime, it always says at the bottom of halftime how much time we have to fill. So when we're doing performances and whatever else, we can say, all right, we have 6 minutes roughly, so that when we are creating our scripts, we can just plug and play. And Shuffle tells us exactly how much time we have remaining based off our template, which is extremely helpful for us, because we already have like 2 videos planned, and we already have the jump around planned and a fight song planned. But because they're pre-built elements, you can just plug and play rather than doing all the math yourself, which is extremely helpful. And now second half, same format, 60-minute media timeout, 12-minute media timeout, 8-minute media timeout, 4-minute media timeout. For us at UVU, it's just our tradition regarding our 4-minute media timeout. We always have our 4-minute media timeout video, which is a specific hype. We do a full light show because the energy kind of dies down at that time of the game. Either you're winning and everyone's on edge, or you're losing and everyone's kind of like, regardless, we want to build the energy here at UVU. And so we always have our 4-minute media production and a t-shirt toss, but it's always with a light show and smoke and loud music and all that else, with participation of the Green Man Group, mascot, dance team, cheer team. It's a blast here. And then we have our coach's first call timeout, which we always have at the bottom, because that one's a silly one for all you basketball producers out there. It's either in the second half, it's the coach's or team's first call timeout, as long as it's before. Or actually, it's just any time. So we have that down at the bottom, so we can always jump down to it should that happen during the second half. And then we go as far as post game. So immediately following the game, we play our fight song, we read our final score PAs, our next game PAs, and then our ESPN 60, just saying fans tune in to our to hear from our head coach after the game, and we want to make sure all of our ads are following. Things that we do uniquely as well as we have our sponsorship fulfillment, so we make sure our team knows, hey, now the game's over, these are the things we need to get done, just so it's more specific. And that also does change from game to game depending on what we need to fulfill. And then lastly, there's just like our takedown. So, hey, referring back to what we had to set up at the beginning of the game, just a reminder, these are things we need to take down, and then situational items. So this is also corporate partnership fulfillment. So we have that marked here at the bottom. Fabulous Freddy's, this is a conditional PA. That's if we get more than 65 points during the game. And if that's the case, I automatically know to just scroll as fast as I can to the bottom. I can click track, and it'll jump everyone down to it so that they know, all right, we need to read this PA since we just got 65 points, and I can cue that in as well.
Yeah, that was a question, for the situationals or the as happens. So you all just put those at the bottom of the script. Are there others that you have maybe say in global elements that you can just quickly call? And does that ever happen where you're changing things up on the fly, maybe adding something in that you weren't planning pregame?
That's something we want to do. We didn't have that built out this previous game, but Brian, thanks for the inspiration. I think that's a great idea.
We actually do. We do with our band will sometimes show up without us knowing.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And so we will add like a band PA. We've done very minimal things, but definitely there's definitely, like Jeff said, room for growth there.
Yeah, it's a challenging thing to do, and we've gotten lots of feedback from customers on other ways that we can do that. Well, this has been great, Jeff. Thank you for walking through really a deep dive of the men's basketball script. We've got a little bit more time here, so we want to bring in Mikaela and share, maybe do a screen share of the, or pop open the, I think we were going to touch on the softball script. And Mikaela can share a little bit how she's doing things. As I know, Mikaela, you're not duplicating a previous game. You're actually using the template each time. Is that right?
Yes. So I just copy from the original template that Cam has built out. And Jeff is going to be doing the screen share. But so I just click the template right there. Jeff, will you actually jump over to the baseball one first? Perfect. So the reason that I want to go through baseball first is our head coach is very rigid on timing. And so for baseball, the timing is super important. So I just copy from here. And I would duplicate this rundown. Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. And then just like Jeff showed you guys in men's basketball, edit rundown settings. And then I would do the game, the number game, and then UVU or baseball versus the opponent. And then if you can change the time to 6:05 p.m. Perfect. And then I would click save. And then I would go into that game. And then I'm just going to touch on a couple things. So I don't know if Jeff went over this, but everything that's marked in red, like right here, food. So a couple days before the game, I just change everything in red to make sure that I have everything for the game, that I have food ordered. And then pregame is pretty simple, but scrolling down to the umpire home plate meeting, Jeff, if you could, which is at 57. Perfect. So if I change anything in the script, I can't change anything below the umpire. Like if I change something in the script, I have to change the umpire home plate meeting and then adjust timing up, because our coach is very particular at the umpire home plate meeting has to happen at 50, right at 57. So I would, if I had to add like a national anthem performer or other things like that, I just have to make sure that that is always at 57. And then we'll go over the lineup a little bit. So how I add the lineup in is I click like 2 hours before the game, I get the lineup and I click global elements. And then I switch over to UCCU ballpark. And then from there, I just drop in 1 through 9, what the lineup is going to be. If you want to just drop in like Daniel Dickinson or number 3. Perfect.
Yeah, and one other cool feature here within this modals, you can just drag and drop the elements that are already in your script as well. And that's a feature it's probably our number 1 feature request within the actual script is the drag and drop, which we are working on currently. So we're excited to be able to release that.
Cool. And then you can skip out of that, Jeff. And then I just go through each player and I make sure that because the batting order changes frequently or their position, and I'll put batting number 1, a sophomore from Washington, and then I'll put their position and just make sure that is all correct. And then I run through that with the PA. Cool. And then we will skip down to the first pitch. So we have the ceremonial first pitch, national anthem. And then something cool that Cam has asked me to do this year is we added a buffer. Jeff, if you could go down just a little bit. So at the middle 1 break, there's a buffer in between each PA, which helps us time how long each PA is going to be. And then if you scroll down to element 128, the bottom of top gameplay, right here, it'll time how long the inning is. We just kind of wanted to get a feel, an average about how long each inning was taking. And so throughout the game, I just enter in contest through the global elements. And then it's pretty much the same all from there. And one thing I will add is this little magnifying glass in the top right corner. Jeff, if you just want to click that. I'll search for opponent is set a lot, and I don't want to go through each inning and change it. So I search for opponent, and then I change it to the opponent that we have and replace with.
So a quick find and replace, replacing every instance of opponent with the actual.
Yeah, because in between each
name.
inning, we announce hits, runs, and errors. And I just want to make sure that the PA is seeing the right opponent. But obviously, I'm not going to go through and do that for every single one.
Yeah, big fan of using the find and replace. And so, sometimes you'll use nomenclature like today versus tonight in a script. And so being able to quickly make those changes, we definitely recommend the find and replace. Well, this is great, Mikaela. One question I had on the timing for the inning. Are you using show caller tracking to automatically update the timing, or is that something you're manually punching in and kind of clocking it outside of show flow?
So I just track live with the event and press the spacebar once the inning ends, and then it will shows me the over under time, so I know how long the inning was. So that way next year when we're building our scripts, we know on average how long each inning is. And I know that varies, but it will just help us with timing and to know how long the baseball games really are.
Yeah, that's great. Love that. Using the over under timing will actually show you how ahead or behind schedule you are based on the durations you put in at the beginning. And then if you're duplicating or leveraging templates, you get the benefit of seeing that information next time. So you know, hey, this one, we were over by 45 seconds. Maybe we should increase the duration on this as a template. So
exactly. And baseball just added a pitch clock in between innings as well. Well, just a timer in between innings. So they're very particular about making sure that everyone's starting right on time. So
another reason why we added the buffers in between every single PA was because we don't have always the same PA announcer. And so if some of our PA announcers, if it's not on the screen, then they're not going to read it. If it is on the screen, they're going to read it. And so after they read a PA, we would go to buffer so it notifies our PA, hey, you're done reading, we're going to wait. And once I put up the next PA is when we want you to read the next PA. And that's just our baseball PA was newer in that sport, and it helped us out a lot.
I love that. I've actually never heard that, but it makes sense to not show the script until they should be reading the script. And so having a blank slate makes a lot of sense for the PA if they're reading off of a device. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you all so much for walking us through it. We did have one question come in from Danielle as it relates to training and onboarding. So we offer a training call for how to use ShowFlow, and then there's a second training call for the global elements feature specifically, because it is a little bit more of a deeply involved workflow. Saves a lot of time, but you got to know how to use it first. So any comments from you all on what your onboarding and training experience was like? I know we got a little bit out on the front end.
I think for us, we went through the training, but until you actually go in and do it yourself, it's the training is only valuable until you've actually built out a script. And so make sure when you're a newcomer to this, you block off a good amount of time to just play and make mistakes. There's been the time where we were up till 3 a.m. There's another time where I built out a script from scratch and messed up the elements, but didn't realize I messed it up. So I was on with customer service for a long time. And then I ended up I started rebuilding the entire script again because I thought it was just a bug with ShowFlow. I was like, ShowFlow, there's a bug. Customer service doesn't know what's going on. They can't tell me why it's doing this. So I was about halfway through rebuilding the script. And then I remembered I'd moved a column. So I moved it back, fixed the global element. And I was like, sweet. And then to customer service, I was like, yeah, I figured it out. It was my fault. I'm sorry. And they were really good. Me wasting 3 hours of their time. But
yeah, you make a good point that we would encourage you all to, if you're new to it, jump in and try to build something from scratch, get used to how the program works. And then after you've spent maybe an hour, 2 hours in it, then do your training call so that you can queue up more questions. That's just going to make the training a little bit more helpful. And then don't bite off the whole thing in the first year. Just know that the automatic timing is going to be a big time saver for you. That's everybody's favorite feature in the software. So if you just got the benefit of that alone in year one, you can improve on other things in year two. And so with that, one final question to you all is there anything as you're moving into your second full season or year using ShowFlow that you're looking to implement?
Something specifically for that is just like we want to utilize global elements more. Like you were saying, Brian, you touched on that, but it's always good to be quick on your feet. So being the more prepared you can, the better. If you're building out situational elements and global elements in the event, like, oh, well, what if something needs to change? Like Cam said, if the bench decides to show up, it's lucky for us because then we can just go drag and drop, boom, done. And that's across all sports, not just men's basketball. It's particularly helpful for men's basketball because it's so high-paced, high-stress. You're managing a lot of different things. But to get everyone on page within a couple of seconds by utilizing that feature, it's just extremely helpful. So building that out more is something we want to do for sure.
Yeah. Love it, and excited for you all to continue to adopt and improve things. So, well, Cam, Jeff, Mikaela, thank you so much for your time and walking us through all of this. It's been great. For everybody, we are going to be at the IDEA trade show coming up here in St. Louis in just a couple of weeks. If you're not familiar with that trade show, it's our favorite. You can check them out, ideaontheweb.org. It's for game scripting, and there's an award show. You can compete with your best activations and elements and learn what is the industry, what are the best people in the industry doing. So feel free to reach out to us on that if you have any questions. If you want to explore ShowFlow, you can schedule a call with us, and we'll walk you through things. We can do an import of your Excel or Google Sheet game script into ShowFlow as well, so you can see what your document looks like in the software as well. But for all of us here at ShowFlow, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.